Ugh. It can't be. Tex? You're supposed to be dead.
Don't sound so disappointed. You'll make me cry.
In my list of favorite red versus blue seasons that have been released so far, I'd have to say that Season 8's pretty high up there. Not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. Not just because of the addition of the 3D animation that makes all the awesome action scenes and character interactions, but it seems to me that Season 8 wraps up the elemental trials of the Great Prophecy, the real Great Prophecy. I said that Season 6 covered the trial of the windmill. Season 7 was the burning plains. And now I feel like Season 8 ties the end of the burning plains into the real swamp and great freezing plains. And I feel like it adds to the impact of the reason why the season's called Revelations. The season starts out with Doc arriving at Valhalla, and he radios command to confirm that he's shown up to the site that they've sent him to. And honestly, nobody answers him on the radio. And then Simmons sees him and starts calling for him to come down and help them, not knowing it's Doc. So Doc runs over to greet him, and as they realize they know each other, Doc attempts to be friendly and catch up with Simmons, and he realizes Donut is actually dead on the ground, and while he's trying to explain to Simmons that there's nothing really he can do for dead, Simmons starts to apologize and tell him he didn't know that they would send him. And Doc starts wondering why he's apologizing, and as he turns around, he notices Wash and Meta, now returning to the Great Prophecy.
He's sorry about us.
Wash, the Great Retriever, and Meta, the Darkness, are the ones who made Simmons call a medic, who just happened to be Doc, the vessel of the last darkness. So Wash and Meta are holding them captive so that they can find out where the Reds and Blues actually are, with Epsilon. Meanwhile, Sarge, Griff, Caboose, Tucker, and Epsilon are in the desert at the dig site, performing a eulogy for the aliens and the soldiers that died in the previous battle in Season 7. Where the aliens that used to follow CT are now worshipping Epsilon, who is the orb, the great key, within the great weapon. Basically revived Epsilon as the memory of Alpha. While Epsilon tries to preach to the aliens,
I am the best.
Skip it.
Fine.
And be their deity, he starts having memory flashes.
In the beginning, there was darkness. And out from the darkness came a voice. And it said...
And he has a vision of Tex running into a temple nearby. It changes into a vision of her running into the blue base at Valhalla, which I believe that vision specifically is a memory of her running from the crashed Pelican into Blue Base when she crashed in Valhalla between Season 5 and 6. I think Epsilon starts actually having the visions because he's an AI based off of memory, and he doesn't have a lot of those memories, and once he was put into the alien technology, which is so much more advanced than himself, it starts opening up all the possibilities of what his programming can do, and when he starts messing with his own long-term and short-term memory, that could be when that starts.
I think he's having another memory flash.
What?
Random memories that keep coming back to him. He's been getting them more and more lately, and I don't think he has any control over them.
I saw a canyon and a waterfall. And there was some kind of dark figure there.
A waterfall, huh? That's the second time you've talked about that.
Yeah, but where could that be?
That sounds like our new bases.
It does? It does!
The vision of Valhalla makes Sarge worry about what's going on there. And after calling Simmons on the radio and finding out he's held captive in the most insane way possible, Sarge and Griff find themselves having to go rescue Simmons. And Epsilon ends up following them out of curiosity, because maybe this will be the answer to his visions. After Simmons explains the concept of time distortion to Doc, Sarge and Griff end up saving Simmons, having their Jeep turn into a supervillain trampoline in the process. Epsilon arrives and distracts the Meta long enough for the Reds to escape through the hole in the wall that Griff created with his Jeep. And he starts to remember things once he gets to Blue Base.
Wait a minute. I know this place.
But eventually joins back with the Reds through the hole. As Meta closes in on them, this is when Epsilon sees Wash and immediately remembers him in anger, creating the laser once again and destroying the wall covering up the hole. Safe for now from the Retriever in the darkness, Epsilon passes the fuck out, and the Reds get him back to the desert. When they return to the desert, Tucker and Caboose are being chastised by the aliens for losing their god ball.
Rolled up newspaper!
Which brings me to a tangent. The aliens in the Blood Gulch Chronicles believe that the Great Sword was their great weapon, but those aliens in the desert are worshipping the orb. It's not stated outright, but if my theory's correct, and the orb is the second iteration of the weapon and Epsilon is the key to activate it, is it possible that these aliens are the second faction of believers that think the orb is the weapon instead of the sword? Possibly being the reason they worked with CT in the first place, as a rogue agent opposing Tucker, who sides with the aliens that believe in the sword? Anyway, Sarge is put in a bad position by Caboose, who says that Sarge is the one who stole their alien ball, Lord Hackensack. Sarge warns ever so subtly to Griff and Simmons,
"You see, big group of aliens? We don't have anything like that at all."
What? Uh-oh. What?
Griff kicks Epsilon into the minefield, and once Caboose gets to him, the memory of Delta appears to Caboose and tells him that seeing Wash has shaken loose some of these old memories, and as he searches for them, it is likely he's going to start the cycle again, which basically means he's going to relive the events that the Alpha remembered that triggered Tex to become Beta in the first place, creating Tex as an AI.
It is likely at this point he will begin the cycle again. That must not happen.
According to his vision of Tex at the beginning of the season, I'm guessing that this is the same thing as that, but seeing Wash basically jump-started that process even further. Once Epsilon wakes up, he seems different, like he knows more about what's going on with his memories, but he keeps it to himself. However, he asks Caboose to take him to some place he remembers from the shock of all these new memories. This is where Epsilon takes Caboose to the off-site swords facility, in a swamp. Or a swampy area, rather. Obviously, out of curiosity, the Reds follow. This, I think, is the beginning of the real trial of the swamp. It's not necessarily a trial the first time, it was just where they went to rest, but this time it's more of a trial. Once Church and Caboose get to the facility, they meet Phyllis, most likely the original copy of Sheila, their tank.
It is a pleasure to meet you. You now have 15 seconds to live.
Whoa. Dying sounds like a bad idea. Maybe we should leave.
Oh my, the director. I am so sorry. I did not recognize you, sir.
Can we come in?
Certainly.
As they explore the facility and start to see all the equipment they used over the years, Epsilon ultimately chooses to go to the room designated as the director's secret project. Caboose follows Epsilon into this big room, and as they enter, they see the room is full of Church robots. I've theorized before that these are the same robots as the Church time loop clones, but Epsilon's not there for that.
I'm looking for this. Oh.
Meaning that after the time jump incident in Season 3, not only was O'Malley and the Red Zealots sent to the windmill, and the Reds and Blues sent to the Burning Plains, and Wyoming sent to the Great Freezing Plains, but it seems that the Church clones were sent to the facility in the swamp. As the Reds enter the facility through very red means...
This is a private facility. Hello. This is a private facility.
They hear the voice of Caboose and Church yelling at somebody. They follow it into the secret project room, and Caboose is trying to keep the door shut as the door starts to...
What the heck was that?
Oh, that was me. I said this isn't a door. I said it's a gong.
A gong? What the hell is a...
A gong. I'm just going to walk over this way now. Excuse me.
Door's open.
What the...
Okay. So who's first?
As the Reds run for their lives, and Tex kicks the ever-loving dick out of them, Tucker shows up and jumps into the fight, faring better than the Reds, but not much better. I'd like to believe that while the second iteration of the prophecy is taking place, the fact that Tucker was being a badass in the desert and takes on Tex in the new swamp means he's trying to finish his original quest, since the one the alien took him on was kind of a bust.
Bitch!
Simmons, what are you waiting for?
They look the same. Which one do I shoot?
Ow! Shoot the one who's winning, dumbass!
Ow! Grip! Watch it!
Well, knock the black right off you.
That's racist.
You're all clear, Simmons. Now shoot her.
Fire in the hole!
Oh god, not like this.
As Tex efficiently ends the fight against the Reds and Tucker in a glorious fiery scene, she is interrupted by the orb hitting her in the back of the head, and Epsilon steps out in one of the church clone bodies, fully reborn as the hero. This could easily come across as Epsilon taking the role that Junior did, right? Being conceived in the swamp and being the offspring of the hero to finish what he might not? Very possible, but we'll see where that goes. Now that the beatdown of a lifetime is over, the Reds and Blues, including Tex, chill in the facility. Eventually they all find records proving that they were in fact test dummies for the Freelancers. You might say they find out the time travel was fake, but seriously, if a Freelancer has a time distortion unit, the training scenario probably involves utilizing it, not faking it for no reason. Like, they wouldn't pretend they time traveled. If they have a device that can help them time travel, they would just use that device and practice with it. However, I do feel like even if Wyoming taking Church to the past during the whole Season 3 time travel thing was intentional, I do not think that he meant to put the Reds and Blues distorted into the future. That, I feel like, was a complete accident. But it did seem to have started the recursion process for the prophecy, which is why it restarts if it ever fails. Anyway, as Church continues to sift through the director's files with Tex, it becomes clear that they both are more important than the typical sim trooper. And Tex decides she's going to a base that's nearby, a base built from the crash of the Mother of Invention on Sidewinder. The real Freezing Plains. Church insists he go with her, and she ultimately accepts, saying that she could use him. Meanwhile, Wash and the Meta make their way to the dig site following clues Doc gave them, as well as the addition of CT's recovery beacon. However confused they are, Meta and Wash uncover the head of the monster of the Great Burning Plains. They attempt to reason with the aliens to get info, but after the aliens try to communicate in a misunderstood way, Wash and Meta kill all the aliens. But not before the sweet carbonite joke is paid off.
I hate you.
I know.
Eventually, Meta finds the empty Epsilon unit,
I mean, I like the color, but other than that, meh.
and Wash, fearing that the Meta's going to be pissed off because there is no AI inside of it, though more importantly, consequences from the chairman, rigs it to become a capture unit so that they can retrieve Epsilon when they find him. Once Tex and Epsilon arrive at the base on Sidewinder, Church has a vision again. This time, the Valhalla vision turns into Tex running into the Sidewinder base. She tells him that that's because he's been here before, and she takes him inside. She tells him this is the place where the break-in happened, which contradicts Wash saying the break-in happened at Command Base, but why would they tell Wash the truth? Maybe Command or Freelancer told him that that's where it happened because they don't want him to know exactly where the break-in happened, because they believe that Wash has Epsilon's memories, so they have to be cautious. But they're suspicious of Wash. They're not going to tell him the real situation. In the ice base, we do see Gamma's computer screen from the time distortion situation in Season 3. The prophecy is heavily connected to the events of the time loop from Season 3. Clearly. The trial of the windmill was triggered again after Tex's ship came out of her time warp after a year, and the Meta picked up everything that was on her ship. The Great Burning Plains is where the Reds and Blues woke up when they popped out of the time warp because they were sent there to investigate the energy reading from the orb. The swamp is where the Church clones were sent after the time loop was over. And the Great Freezing Plains was actually Sidewinder inside the ship when Church was trapped inside the computer screen being copied over and over and over again by Gamma in the time distortion. Tex thinks they've been brought to another dead end, and so, as she said before, she needed Church, and she shoots him, setting off his recovery beacon, so literally calling Wash and Meta to the scene. Tex tells Church that she didn't want to come back from the dead, but Church needs her to do what he can't, and this is where they drop the final hint. Epsilon can't be the junior to Alpha as the hero. He has too much memory. He can't fight without Tex. When he said out of the darkness, it meant him. He, just like Omega and Sigma, are part of the director's mind. He has the darkest memories of him. Out of the darkness came Tex. He dragged the Great Destroyer to the swamp to help him revive her memory, and as Season 9 will go on to say,
You gave the director the idea that he could make something more. That he could split the Alpha up. Don't you get it? You were the memory. You were the key.
she was the memory that was used to torture the Alpha to make him split. Because she is his failure, she causes him to fracture. She's basically what they used to create all the AI fragments. He can't be the hero or the junior. He's just the key. It's like a fork in the road. Epsilon is the key that will help the hero and or the junior, while Tex is the key that will ultimately lead to failure every time. It's almost like it's the result of the Great Destroyer trying to reunite the hero with the key instead of the Great Retriever doing that.
That must not happen.
Because it is Caboose trying to revive his best friend Church after all. Luckily, Caboose sees Church is in trouble back at the facility. Now that Sarge is broken from finding out that they were all pawns, because they're sim troopers and not actual soldiers, Caboose is able to convince him to help Church.
I'm going. That's it. You want to come? Then come on. What are you doing here? You always act like you want to quit, but hell, you could have left whenever you wanted. No one would have stopped you. So why are you here? And you, Simmons.
Me?
You say you want to be in charge. They would have given you your own squad a dozen times over. You know it, and I know it. But you're still here. And you, Tucker, as much as I hate to admit it, you're actually good at being a soldier.
I am?
I know you like to make your rude comments and pretend like it all doesn't matter, but an entire alien race chose you to be their hero. So why are you here? Maybe you're all here because this is the only place you fit in. Maybe you're here because you don't have anywhere else to go. Maybe you're all here because deep down you want to be here. The reason doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here. For all we know, Tex and Church are dead. That means we're the only ones who know what's happened. The only ones who can prevent them from covering it up. So the way I figure it, these Freelancer guys want to use us, take us away from our families, and send us all over the dadgum galaxy just to test if their agents are ready for the big fight? Well, I guess I'm interested in showing them exactly what a big fight is all about. Time to clean the slate. So I'm not ordering you to go. I ain't even asking. You do what you gotta do, Private Griff.
I'll go get my car keys.
And they decide they're going to team up, steal the Pelican from the offsite storage facility, and go find Church and Tex and save the day.
Who the hell is gonna drive that? Why is everyone looking at me?
Once Wash and Meta arrive, the official Great Freezing Plains starts.
What? No, you're overthinking it. That's just... Oh, son of a bitch. Told you so.
Tex, the weapon Church needed to get by, fighting Meta, the Darkness, and Wash, the Retriever, leading to one of my favorite fight scenes in the entire series.
Is that a... got to be kidding me.
And as the battle rages on, the Meta ultimately got the upper hand on Tex and stabbed her in the face with the capture unit, pulling her into it and leaving her robot husk behind. And as Wash tries to bargain with Church and Doc, Meta succumbs to the temptation. When originally, the Meta was going after the AI because he wanted to use the pieces to create a fully living AI as to Sigma's agenda, the EMP wiped out all the AI in his head, including Sigma. So now he wasn't driven off of Sigma's motivation.
When the AI fragments were destroyed by Agent Washington, the Meta was destroyed along with them, leaving behind a damaged shell of a man. Unlike Sigma, his only remaining goal was to obtain power.
And this is the key that was going to give him the power. He can't live without the keys. It's been narrowed down to just this one key. Epsilon started in the containment unit. He left, remembered Tex, Wash made the containment unit into a capture unit, and then Meta captures her, creating the key the Meta craved so badly. As Wash tries to fight Meta, Meta gains the upper hand and has the opportunity to take down Wash. But then the Reds and Blues arrive, crash into the battlefield.
I can't believe it.
There they are! Land right next to them!
Right.
Whoa, that was a close one.
Come on. Let's see how many of your friends survive that.
You know, they're not really my friends.
That's okay. I'm sure none of them really survived.
Well, they lived. They must be your friends, Church.
Good point. Fuck it.
After all the commotion, Church and Wash find the capture unit, and it's revealed what Tex's AI trait is. Failure. The director's failure.
She died in her real life, and that's all the director ever remembered of her. So now, no matter how tough she is, no matter how hard she fights, she's always going to fail, because that's what she's based on.
That's why when O'Malley got her in Season 5, his plan failed. That's why Epsilon can't be the Junior, and ultimately it bodes the same results for the Meta. Meta rises from the snow, and the Reds and Blues charge into battle.
Fire in the hole!
Tucker gets a stab in that slows him down enough, and Tucker's ultimately landing the blow that leads to the Meta's death, according to Counselor. And while Sarge distracts him with his shotgun and taunts, Griffin Simmons end him as they chain a Jeep to his chest armor and push the Jeep off the cliff, leading the Meta to failure. After the battle, Wash is pretty banged up, and Tex is still inside the capture unit. The only way for anyone to save her is for Epsilon to jump into the memory unit as his ghost form and save her. While Wash is hoping he doesn't do that because he needs him as evidence to get himself out of this mess, and he's afraid that the capture unit is too damaged for him to survive it. Epsilon jumps in, and as his friends watch and root for him, the unit shuts down in the snow, leaving him trapped. The UNSC then shows up and congratulates the Reds and Blues on defeating 3 Freelancers, not knowing that Wash is safely hidden inside Church's armor, and now joins the Blues. Now that Wash is in Church's armor, he looks like Church, he has Church's memories from being implanted with Epsilon, but he can't be the hero, because he's the Retriever, so this means he has to find a suitable replacement. Ultimately, the Retriever's job. The guys return to base, although it's unknown which base, because if they go back to Valhalla, they learn that Donut's alive.
Oh, hey, guys!
Way too early. And if they go back to Blood Gulch, they learn Sister's alive.
Oh my gosh! Big Bro's alive! It's those that gray guy that choked me till I passed out.
Oh yeah, Lopez said he killed Sister. Epsilon, however, is not trapped forever. And no, the great journey isn't over just yet. Inside, Church finds himself in a memory he can easily find Tex. A memory of Blood Gulch, where he poses as Alpha. I did the real windmill, the real burning plains and the real swamp and the real freezing plains. Well, Season 9 and Season 10 are the real Holy Valley, and we'll find out who the real Junior is.
Hey there, Alpha. Been looking for you for a long time.
Oh no.
It's getting